I think he's brother love. He love other men.
Well, I think he's in love with his brother, like he loves other men.
Usher, and they redacted their names and just said a performer of the Super Bowl and a Philly rapper. Everybody kind of knew back in the day that Meek Mills and Puff was a little too friendly. Anytime two rappers or two people in the industry come dressed up alike on more than one occasion, my man, listen here, man. My dudes in Philly, I got some real strong dudes in Philly. They don't play that shit. And they probably embarrassed for the fact to see that Meek Mills, one of the street guys that came out of there, got caught up in this Hollywood whereas that he's dressing like, he dressing the same he dressing like Diddy? Hugged up with Diddy? I think that Lil Rod know a lot of
Good Usher. They redacted their names and just said a Super Bowl performer and a Philly rapper. But everybody kinda knew back in the day that Meek Mill and Puff were too friendly. Anytime two rappers or industry people start dressing alike on more than one occasion, listen man, my dudes in Philly, I got some real strong ones, and they don't play that mess. They're probably embarrassed to see Meek Mill, one of the real street guys out of Philly, caught up in all this Hollywood stuff. He's dressing like Diddy, hugged up with Diddy. I think people know what's going on.
It's just like two men laying down. When they both get up, they both homos. And that's real talk, bruh. My man, you go to a party, dog, and the nigga got the same shirt you got on, I'm taking my shirt off. I'm walking around in a t-shirt. And then, not to blow Meek Mills up out the water or anything like that, it was said that they checked his Google search and all the other shit, and he was searching for some online. That.
Oh, wow.
That shit is crazy, bro. But listen, those are what, you know, it's crazy that money, that lifestyle, and you trying to fit into something get you. These guys never set out to do all this shit. Meek Mills, when he got into the game, he didn't set out to be...
Like, it's just two men laying down. When they both get up, they're both homos. And that's real talk, bro. If I go to a party and another dude got on the same shirt as me, I'm taking my shirt off, walking around in just a t-shirt. And not to blow Meek Mill up or anything, but it was said they checked his Google searches. And, man, he was searching for some wild stuff. That's crazy, bro. But that's what that money and that lifestyle does. You try to fit in. These guys didn't set out to be like this. Meek Mill didn't get into the game to end up like this.
Jaguar Wright said this, an ex-employee of him. He goes, if you can get a man to suck, you can do anything. As in a man that just does not want to do that. Yeah, that's a real, it's like a affirmation. It's like a real power affirmation for someone.
At every level, there's something
I want to joke about it on stage, but people like, you know, nobody follows all the same things anymore, so it's hard to, the things I want to make references about, there's like no common culture anymore of like, we all saw this, so you gotta just burn time explaining the first part of the story, and people will get invested in it. It's so much better than...
The Mob has podcasts now.
And they have rivalries, and there's like people that are like, oh, well, I heard he's a snitch. Like they're now, like, do you have Stockholm Syndrome? Good, they're a snitch. That's why we have this great show. Hope everyone snitches. What the talking about? So I get criminals. He has a right to say as a criminal, don't snitch. You, the citizen of the good country, Edward Snowden's not supposed to be hiding out in Russia with the bad man.
When Jaguar Wright said this, an ex-employee of Puff. If you can get a man to suit up and do anything, especially stuff he doesn't want to do, that's real power. A real affirmation. There's stuff I want to joke about on stage, but people don't all follow the same stories anymore. You gotta spend time explaining the setup. Now, even the mob has podcasts, rivalries. People call each other snitches. Like, do you have Stockholm Syndrome or not? They're like, he's a snitch. That's why we love this show. It's wild, man. I get criminals saying, don't snitch. But if you're a citizen, you're in a good country, man. Edward Snowden shouldn't be hiding in Russia with the bad guys.
Him and Cassie be pillow talking. That's his wife. He didn't see Cassie can't say anything because he made her sign ND, a non-disclosure. But she could whisper things in her husband's ear. And some of the stuff that she's probably saw had to go through with dude, her husband just speaking on it. He can't say where he got it from. But then again, he gotta know. People gotta know where he got it from. That's his wife. Yes, he's an older guy. He might be a whole lot of fruity too. But Cassie would know that just like Kim knew that.
So you feel like Cassie is the one that's telling her husband stuff behind the scenes about Puffy?
Right. And you gotta realize he was their trainer. He was her trainer before he became her husband. So she may have been telling him stuff way before they was even married. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. So before we get off of this topic, right, because I'm sure people is going to want me to ask you being around Puffy, is there any truth to him being fruity?
I don't know what you mean by really, do I see this man being fruity? Does a man like other men?
They say him and Cassie used to pillow talk. That's his wife, but she can't say anything. She signed an NDA. Still, she could whisper things to her husband. She probably saw stuff. She probably went through stuff. Her husband? He's just speaking on it. He can't say where he heard it, but people are gonna guess. That's his wife. He's an older guy, maybe fruity too, but Cassie would know. Just like Kim knew. So, yeah, maybe Cassie's the one telling her husband stuff behind the scenes about Puff. You gotta remember, he was her trainer before he was her husband. She could have been talking to him even back then before they got married. You know what I'm saying? Now, before we get off this topic, because I know people gonna want me to ask, you being around Puff, is it true he's fruity? I don't know what you mean by fruity, but do I see him being into men? Maybe.
He interests me and might interest the viewers and everything like that, you know, but they live this weird rock and roll lifestyle where they touchy-feely with each other. And all I can say in situations like that is that if two men lay down, how many fruity men get up?
Does this stuff really interest me? Maybe not, but it might interest the viewers. They live that weird rock and roll lifestyle, all touchy-feely with each other. All I can say is, if two men lay down, how many fruity men get up?
On the elevator. And I stay on the elevator, and the elevator stop on Puff floor.
Huh.
And I'd be like, okay. And then I wouldn't let the door close because this person is oblivious to who I am. So he would just walk straight to Puff door, and I'll just be watching, and I'll see him knock on the door, and then I'll see him go in. In my mind, at this particular time, I'm so happy I got the day off. I'm not thinking about I said, well, they some freaks. That's all. I don't know about him saying, you know, this, that, and the other, but I know for sure that those guys, because then he would hit me if they had a party that night, and he would be like, Barnes, you remember such and such? Say, what? And it was one guy specifically, he would say, it was a guy named Michael from Miami. And I knew this guy, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't know what role he played in nothing, but Puff would always ask me, yo, can you make sure he get in the party? He ain't got to be in, but just make sure he get in the party. Then it was times that we went away, and I would always have the adjoining room to his room. But it was times where the assistant would be like, yo, your room is up the hall. I'd be like, yo, my room. And then I might see the same guy got the adjoining.
I was on the elevator once, and it stopped on Puff's floor. I didn't let the door close. This guy, he didn't know who I was. He just walked straight to Puff's door. I watched him knock. I watched him go in. At the time, I was just glad I had the day off. Didn't think much of it. Just figured, they some freaks. Later, Puff would call me like, "Yo, Bonds, you remember such and such?" There was one guy, Michael from Miami. I knew him, not well, but Puff always made sure he got into the parties. Sometimes when we traveled, I'd have the room next to Puff. But there were times the assistant told me, "Yo, your room's up the hall." And I'd see that same guy in the adjoining room.
Pac was the first one on the scene wearing Versace shirts. He went and got the same Versace shirt Pac had. Which, alright, some dudes would do that. You'll never catch me wearing something else, something that somebody else got. He was knocking down all the women that he thought Pac was knocking down. And what I mean is, why would you want to have with women you know for sure a dude that was once cool with you was dealing with?